Shila malois, esu ein ayalude, mayayin yuvo yezri. Ezri me madoino, yoisai shumayim vuretz. Al yitain lamoit ragleichu, al yunim shemreichu. Hinai lo yunim velo yishon, shoy mairis ruail. Adoinoi shoy mereichu, adoinoi tzilchu al yadim mineichu. Yoy mama shemesh lo yakeku, v'yirayach baloilu. Adoinoi yishmarchu mikol ru, yishmes nafshechu. Adoinoi yishmes aizchu v'yechu, mayatu v'yadoilam. Shira malois b'mamakim, krusichu adoinoi. Adoinoi shimu b'koili, tiyanu az nechu kashivois l'kol tachaninoi. Im avoinoi tishmor ya Adoinoi mi yamoid. Ki imchu aslichu leman tivurai. Ki visi Adoinoi kivzu nafshi v'ledvuroi cholti. Nafshi l'Adoinoi mishoimrim laboiker, shoimrim laboiker. Yachal Yisruai lel Adoinoi, kim Adoinoi achesed v'hal ba'imoi fedes. V'hi ivdes Yisruai mikoi l'Adoinoi sav.
Sind zusammengekommen, um zu geben, der letzte Covid, für Süße. Lächtige Mensch, in der Gitte Frant für alle. Wir haben Kabel gewähnt, jedem einen, bis sei wir punem Jufes. Aber Eli Dov, Baliui Doi ben Rabbi Maye Blaustein Ula Schule. Eli ist aufgewachsen bei seinen Eltern, Rabbi Maye, Besure Basti und Olaya Maschule. Als Stieb, was gerne durchgeweigt, mit einem Uwe von Geh, in das Battles, für ehrlich Jiden, als Stieb, was gerne weggestellt, sich wegzugeben für andere. Es gibt einen offenen Stieb für Chlusses Ochem. Der Seifer Gereidem sucht, als der Mitzvah Liftbeut al Udam Kusche, der Mitzvah mit Masbe zu sein, Shenema Vayuvoi Avruam Liftbeut al Surah Lev Koisach. Jede Sache, was ins Thema der Scheurisch von dem liegt in der heilige Teure Gdeutsche. In der Gereidem sucht, wir sehen Mechlal Gimlus Chassudem. In sind wir da alle zusammengekommen, der Teufel ist in der Schumme von Rebellion Däuf. Jetzt kennen wir jetzt allen Sinn die Mitzvah von Wolachte Bedruchow. Der Schloko, der Juk, zu gehen zur Lewaie, nicht immer Weilem. Jetzt können wir schicken am Matune, ein gewaltiges Schiss, der Mitzvah von gehen zur Lewaie, in immer Weilem, ist Wolachte Bedruchow. In der ersten von der Series Adibris sucht der Rebbeinu Leulam Neuchi Hashem Elekechu asher tzichu me'etz Mitzrayim me'bais Avudem. Suchen der Scheunem der Heilig, was der Rebbeinu sucht, asher tzichu me'etz Mitzrayim me'bais Avudem, lehnt uns die Yesod Fakuras HaToif. Der Chayvus al-Wuve sucht in Shavuos Alekim, als die ganze Avoides Hashem in Schleimes darf sein ein Gefühl von Akuras HaToiv leboiris Buch Shemoi. In der Nifte, aber du dreibst dich eine Woche, ist gewesen ausgezeichnet in der Mitte von Akuras HaToiv. Mishpacha als Blaustein, dann gewesen von den Pioneering Parents für die erste Klasse öffnen in der Weizen in der Heide. Ich kann nicht übergeben, du in ein paar Sekunden, ein paar Minuten, die nicht normale Gefühl von der Kurs HaToiv, wo sie bei in der Rebbe zusammen umgescheit, haben wir rausgewiesen, alle Juren, an nicht normaler Kurs HaToiv. Der Heide ist gewesen, nicht eine populäre Sache in der ersten Jahr. Sei sind gewesen von den Pioneering Parents, in Rebbe Eli Doif, wenn sie gewesen der zweite Jahr, mit Ugo im Raffel, zusammen mit Rebbe David Tester, was du in der gewesen der Schemann, alle Juren hat gewesen von den Hauptverkäufern von der Raffel. Von geführt ein gewaltiger Kurs HaToiv, als ein Buch, sozusagen stark, gegangen in der Heide, wieder ist ausgestiegen. Ich bin übergefühlt mit der Kurs HaToiv. Übergefühlt. Ich kann es nicht übergeben in Werte, weil die Sprache, sie Urim, überzugeben in Werte, wie der Mensch geht übergefühlt mit der Kurs HaToiv. Die Heide hat gedacht, eine Annerie, nicht gewinnt kein Einreges, also nein. Hagam sei in einer gewissen Weg sind es stille Menschen. Hagam aber gekannt jede Meinung, geliebt bei jeder Meinung. In einer gewissen Weg sind sie stille Menschen. Von diesen Wegen, der Geist das gedacht, haben sie alles erwegelegt, seine Gefühlen, seine eigene personal Gefühlen, in Masken gehen, ob das sagen geht für der Geist. Nicht normal Übergebenkeit, eine Rose war es, ein Kurs HaToiv, was mit viel der Mann, das ist die Sod von der Jüdischkeit, und das Sod von der ganzen teure Gdeutsche. Binzen bis Medrisch, ob Samen kaufen mit der Wegemuft, ich gewinne viele Gehaben ihm zu anders. Ich gewinne so überliebt bei jedem einen, es ist gewinne eine natural Sache, als so wie in der Gabe. Ich weiß nicht, wie viele Jungs, ich kann nicht rechnen, zwischen 20 und 30 Jahren, zwischen 20 und 30 Jahren, ich gedenke nicht, kann einmal runnen, etwas im angenehmen Gefühlen. Ausgehend von seinem Tat, dass eine Woche, Asamin ist Battles, zu sagen, ein Moikere Abunnen, Asamin ist Battles, wir reden wegen 25 Jahren, wir reden 25 Jahren, der Madrasi, ich denke, das kann nicht der Cheshman. Einmal nicht gewähnt ein Indien, was? Einmal nicht, gedenke ich kann einmal, Asamin Ausgearbeitkeit für das Battles, all seine Übergebenkeit in seiner Kurs HaToiv ist bei Eli ist gewähnt von den Hauptmenschen in der Cheve Kedische. Einmal gelaufen, sie hat Haare. Einmal gelaufen, sie hat Haare. Mit viel gerät, als sei Stieb, wie sie aufgewachsen sind, ausgeweigt, mit der Begehen von anderen. Sein Tate sich eine Woche, wenn der Weizen von gedacht gegangen zu der Airport, hat er vermacht die Geschäft. Seine Mama hat eine andere Sache, Chitz Ochem, so pflege ein zu gassen ist, hat sie mit Samar gewähnt, der Kalles. Rebbe Eli, was Schulem, mit seinem Bruder dann auch gescheit, und getan dieselbe Sache, für Jahre lang, pflege sie kommen zu gassen ist, und mit Samar sagt, wo ist denn der Kalle? Mamisch. Und Friedemann in bekitzt wegen der Moikere der Rabunan. Das ist eine interessante Sache, als der Rabbeine Joine in Sharat Shiva, Pari Gimel, sucht, als mechabed zan Rabunem is a mitzvah der Reise, wenn ich dashti besoich ben Yisrael. Sucht, oi bis mechabed Rabunem, is du a teure, is du a kovet a teure. Thomas ist mechabed Rabunem, ist du kovet a teure. But the Friede meint, als zan Battles für Rabunem, et gewissen a hafledicke Hakure für seine Rebbes, der tells wie Yeshivas hat gelernt, Duen tells, gelernt Cleveland tells, später sie gefuhren in der Tesurel, Glemper Pirche Scheinberg ist eine Woche, hat einmal gerät mit der Samin Warmkeit für seine Rebes. Ich bin aufgewachsen in der Weizen Stiebe, bei meiner Schwester eine Woche. Wenn es ausgekommen zu reden wegen meiner Schwester eine Woche, habe ich gesehen, die ganze Menschen kommen übergenommen. Hat einmal geredet wegen der Tfilis hier in der Ruhe, es geredet wegen der Kuffes. Ich glaube, es kommt zu Jutzat hier, hat man gesehen, wie es in eine andere Welt im Ganzen herausgegeben seine Gefühle, Hakure, Moikere Brunnen. Also der Tachlis von einer Lawaihe ist gemacht geworden, wo sagt man Kaddisch? Ein Mensch geht weg, sagt man Kaddisch, ist der Chazal weggestellt zu sagen Kaddisch. Denn das frühe Masbe zu sagen, ein Mensch geht weg, fehlt, in Englisch sagt man es avoid. Ist du, die Kinder sagen Kaddisch, man füllt der Gap, der Void. Als uns, wir mitnehmen von der Lawaihe, Moike Rabunan, Hakure Satoif, wird es eine gewaltige Schrift für seine Schumme. Interessante Sache, als es nicht geworden, Nächte über Nacht, zwei Seige mit 212. Aber Nächte über Nacht schon gewesen, Chov Zayin Tischre. Chov Zayin mit 3 Sache, Lote. Rebelli Doif, also die letzten 2-3 Jahre ist auch gegangen, nicht gelacht hat Kiefer. Es gab verschiedene Gesundheitsprobleme. In der letzten halben Jahr ist es sich zusammengefallen bei der Arbeit und gegangen ran raus von Hospitals. Ist Sach, es gab Schimpffragen nicht bei mir, als Dani ist hier und er ist doch gegangen, die letzten 2 Jahre, hoffentlich seine Schumme ist ausgelatet. Es ist manchmal gehen zu überwinden, der Covid, wo es gewähnt zwischen Rabbi Doif mit seinem Urgescheit sein dabei ist, alle Jahre, Asami Ehre, eine von der Zweite, ist ein Meidlich gewähnt von mir kein Chiddisch. Ich habe gesehen, die Übergegebenkeit für die Kinder getan von seiner Tate, die letzte Buche Duschen. Reinkommen, gesagt von New York, Buch sozusagen sind mit seiner Schwester, sitzen bei der Tate, reingekommen in Mrs. Blaustein allein, sozusagen gesinnt, sitzen bei dem Bett, joime verleile. Du reppen von einer Sprüche, wo es hat sie gesehen von seinen Eltern Ehre und das Battles, und es geht über zu den Kindern. Die Kinder haben gesehen, als eine Lechtigkeit von seinen Eltern zwischen einer und der Zweite, ist eine Meile, ist gewesen, als Sachen mit Gefühlen, ist da rausgekommen, man hat gesehen, eine nicht normale Übergebenkeit von den Kindern. Interessante Sache ist, sagt des Bruches, sagt die Gemurre, darf jetzt sein mit allem, sagt die Gemurre, eine interessante Sache. Die Gemurre verzeiht sind, Rabbi Yochanan, ki have Messiah sei für Iev, hoche. Das hat gesagt, Sofe udem Lumis, verhakel lemisse hem omdem. Aschrei, wohl ist der Mensch, mische Gudel bei Teure, Mulle bei Teure, oise nachas riechli oizroi. Wir wissen, als der Chazal so genannt, eins, was beliebt durch der Welt, beliebt auf jeden Welt auch nicht. Rebelli Doif, ich bin so beliebt, bei jedem einen, was hat Kataschares mit. Ich kann schon fragen, als ein oise nachas riechli oizroi, Gudel beschämtov. Geht weg, lässt über seine lechtige Mischpuche, alle Kinder, auf der Hashem, in ehrlich, mit der Reinkeit, mit der Glachkeit, mit der Tmimis. Meile, der Gudel beschämtov, allein, geht weg mit Hashem Tov, Nifte beschämtov mit Eulam, Ulav Meschleume, Teuf Scheime, Schemen, Teuf, Jöime Mus, Jöime Woldoi. Geht weg mit der Sack, da vergonen für Mitzvahs und mit Lechtigkeit, was geht da weg. Rebelli Doif, Kusche Leib und Asche, sei schwierig zu scheiden, noch als lange Kiefung in Zamberg, 40 Jahre, in Neues aber all gewesen, sei, auf viele Mann, dann Geide, noch mit Besmedrisch, ich bete Mechile von mir, von meiner Sprüche, für die ganze Kehille, sei in Besmedrisch und sei Geide, Thomas dachte nicht, ich habe es gerne mal vertauft zu sein, ich gehe jetzt drauf auf den Himmel, darauf gehen zum Besen Schamale, in soll sie anrassen für eine Mune, wo sie jetzt reingekommen an eine neue Matze, wenn sie gewonnen eine Mune Nächte bei Nacht. Eine neue Matze, wo sie da vom Keuches, das hat doch zu führen, in sagen die Kreuen warten von der ganzen Mischbuche. In Ostpolen für die Kinder, alle sollen sagen gesinnt, die Einige sollen sagen gesinnt, und die Mischbuche soll gehen mit Choyel. So der wollen schon helfen. Und dann bekommen wir in der Pusik von Nuvi, Yemucha Hashem dimu mal kapunim, vechepas amo Yuse, virachem ichab uvoin, ivu lezion goi bam hai bimani umain.
Ki offer ato vel offer toshuv. The Blaustein tells Adam Rishon, you're created from offer, you're going back to offer. Mit dem Milchome, mit Yankiv, mit Esav, Vayeovek ish imoi, Menachem Pirish, Vayis afer ish, Meloshen ovok, Shahoyu ma'alim ofer beragleim, Ayedei ninuam. The struggle with one another, with Yankiv Avinu, with the Malach, created a cloud of dust that went up through their movements. What exactly is the significance to know that there was a cloud of dust? That Menachem teaches that in the Posik, Vayeovek, Meloshen Ovok, that it means Vayis Afer. Steht in Baal Turim, Vayeovek begematria kisei hakovoid. Melamed, Sheherlu ha'ovok ad kisei hakovoid. The significance of knowing that the struggle with Yaakov Avinu and the Malach HaChavala from Esav, to which we are witnessing at this moment as well, is a struggle of Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba, which is the Iker and which is the Tafel. So Menachem teaches Vayis Afer, that Yaakov Avinu took the offer and he was malet b'na'nuam. His movements lifted up the offer and said that the offer dike zachen belonged by Kisei HaKavod. Ki offer ato vel offer toshuv, and the Rebbeinu Shem tells Adam Rishon, yes, you're going to go back into a Dalaramis in the offer, all of us. But during the course of your lifetime, you can take the offer from which you were created and be mala'it to the Kisei HaKavod. Elevate your physical existence, your bodily functions, that the Rebbeinu Shem put us a goof together with the neshama. Elevate it, it should be Kisei HaKavodik. The Belaber, who we used to call each other our names, had that existence. Offer ato vel offer toshuv. He was able to elevate the Hanhoge Kisei HaKavodik. As was mentioned, it was not in a vacuum. Ibn Shemayr, like he was called when we were growing up, and his Meibayis, these were people that lived in a different existence. The Weitzner Rav called him to come to the yeshiva that was supposed to be a Mesifta, And that's why he came to Chicago. And he stayed Oduk, as was mentioned in great length, so eloquently. Oduk to the Weitzner, and of course to the Weitzner is the Yesodus of what he brought from the Heim. Not changing, not getting caught up in any Americanisms, any shtusim and lokshin you find around you. Not only did Reb Shemaiah close his shop to take the Weitzner to the airport, every single Bentayra, every single from a year actually, he had a store that he would give, not chotzi chinam, chinam kemat chinam, the begodim, how you take care of everybody. And Abeli saw this, he brought l'chaim together with his siblings, and they raised the bar of their lives to do for the Eibishter, things that the Eibishter would be proud of to bring in front of the Kisei HaKavod. There wasn't a simcha that went by, was mentioned Simchas Chosim V'Kala, there wasn't a simcha that went by that Mrs. Blaustein, Senior, Aleh Shalom, Abeli's mother, would be the Rosh for Rishayna to take care of all the catering needs, all the things in those days. It wasn't so organized. She was the one and only institution that took care of the most of the Kiddushim and Simchas in the Fruma Kehila at the time. And Abeli saw this, and every single thing he could possibly do, as was mentioned in great length, he did with such a Simchas HaChayim, with such a care. The Goin says in Rus, "Vatera ki misametzes hi laleches." When Noemi saw that Rus was having a hard time, she had to push herself to come with her. Vatechta ladaber imar. She stopped trying to talk her out of becoming a giyaris. Says the Goin, how is one supposed to know when he has a motivation to do something? Is it the source? Is Yetzer HaTov? Or is the source of that motivation Chas v'Sholom verkehrt, the Yetzer Hara? There's one litmus test, says the Goin. If you're doing it totally with excitement and jumpiness, with no hesitation whatsoever, and nothing stopping you, nothing holding you back, that's Yetzer Hara. If it's mitzametzes, she has to push herself. She has to overcome her nisyonis of leaving her nation, leaving behind everything. As is well known, Reb Chaim Volozhiner came to the Goin for Askoma to open Volozhin. The Goin didn't answer him. And he came back later, and the Goin said yes. A different time, the Goin said yes. And he asked him, why the difference? The first time you came with too much Islavas. You came with too much motivation, too much push, there was nothing stopping. Afterwards, I saw more the misametzes. And that's when the Goin said this word with Rus. Abelabeh had tremendous amount of things in his lifetime, all through the years, different misametzes matzavim. That's how we know that when he overcame them, and he pushed, and he persevered, it was kulei tov. And it was Zeicha together with Zeish Chayil for some 45 years, as was mentioned, such a herrliche Mishpache, Edelkeit, Reinkeit, Amolikkeit, von Amol. What would the Weitzer Rov say today to this? Would he also agree to what I'm doing and to how I go about my life? And that's how all of us should take away from this Levaya, the Chizuk. When we have situations that the Goyish Welt intrudes on us, as was mentioned last night, one of the many Asifas in Klal Yisrael, somebody mentioned the Posik Shteit Elakim, Bo Goyim Nachlasecha, Timu Esechalecha. Where did we ever witness, ever, such a situation that Rishoyim, Chayis, Arurim should come into the homes of the Kabbanis and shecht one by one, house after house after house, in the house? Achman Litzlan, there were plenty times that there were even more numbers. Geschochten and gehargit, Achman Litzlan Hashem, Yimkaim Damam, Demei Kulam. But this phenomenon of coming inside the Jewish home, one after another, Shechten ganze Mishpachas in the home, Elokim bo goyim nach Lasecha. Weil es dort Goyishkeit in der Stub, kommt der Goyim in der Stub. That was mentioned last night in that Sifa. Let's all be real. Each one search their own inside depths to remove the Goyishkeit from our homes. Without any details necessary, everybody, we all know what Goyish is in our homes. And each and every one of our homes has Goyishkeit in it. No matter who, no matter where. The Heilige Chofetz Chaim once paused, Rav Nosson Wachtfeigl Zatzal brings it in his Leket Rishimis, once paused 10 minutes before making the bracha, Shelo Yasani Goy. They asked him, what was that about? And he said, don't you think, if I'm thanking the Rabbeinu Shalom for not being a Goy, don't you think that I should first introspect myself? Was for Goyishkeiten habe ich in sich ausrahmen and erase and remove that Goyishkeit? Der Heilige Chofetz Chaim in Raden in jene Jahren, ich gewinne alle Sachen, was da heint. Was da, a Spur von der Gas. Whatever it may be. Goyishkeit, darf man ausreißen. This was her belly. This is Yibad L'chaim Toivim, is my bias. His children, this is what they saw by Bet Shemaiah and his my bias. Ton wie amol, nicht ton wie heint. Ausreißen jeden Sieg, jeden Schmeck von Goyishkeit. Ausreißen. And in a positive note as well, and we saw this by belly all the time, always looking for what to do for Yenim. Of course, taking care of his own needs, looking out for himself and his family. But how can I also do for Yenim? And when he learned here in the Talz Yeshiva and in Cleveland in the Talz Yeshiva, and then learned afterwards in Torah, and he was at Kufa, there was Bar Nota Schiller helping out over there with the Bali Tshuva, showing them how to act. It was all the same halach. And he always had that smile on his face, always a simcha, always a laugh, always happy to greet people, to try to help. Belaber, ki offer ata, fel offer toshuv. You taught us this yisoid, how to take our gashmistic existence and to be mala bin nanuam with our nanuim. Shoyumalim offer baragleim ha'yidei nuam with our movements, with our everything that we do to mala to the kisei HaKavod. So now when you go to the kisei HaKavod, for your bnei bayis, for your children, for your mishpacha, for your stat Chicago. Those of us who are young enough to remember what Chicago looked like in the Weizen's prime years, the ashpor that he had, the kedusha, the tahara. Be mispal that it should continue, and all of us should erase any levels of intrusions of foreign objects, and foreign items, and foreign thoughts. And with that, we'll be Zoicha. Klal Yisrael have Yeshua. All the Avelim will be Misnachim. The Cholim should be Misrape. The Shvuyim should have a pidyon. But here, in our case here, the Mishpacha should have a Tanchumen. It should go Mechayel L'Choyel, Ulbila Mos Netzach, U'mocha Hashem L'kim Dim Me'al Kol Panim.
Very hard. Eli, it's very hard for me. I lost a good friend of 43 years and a good Talmud of close to 40 years.
It's very hard. So I just want to tell you a few things. You were genuine. There was nothing fake in you, in your behavior. And as mentioned here before, you took this from your father and mother, Olem Hashem. There was nothing that was not genuine about your behavior, about what you wanted to do, about what you could do. And this genuineness came across very quickly. And I'll tell you some stories soon. And as a genuine person, you were also a very genuine friend. And friendship is not what we know today as a friend. We really lost the concept of what a good friend is. With all what's going on today in the world, some people have thousands and tens of thousands of friends. No. You were one of the few. Was a true friend. A friendship that needs to be bought. Ukne lecha chover. Says the Merkemet HaMishneh שבאמס שהחובר הטוב צורך טורח גודל והשתדלוס נמרץ. To be a good friend requires a lot of efforts, a lot of hishtadlus. And everybody knows how much you tried. The Pirkei Moshe and Maseches Oves, on this Mishnah, Aseh lecha chaver ukne lecha friend, Rov kememachen, you can decide who is your Rov. You can decide today one thing, and if you need to change or if you want to change, you can change it. Friendship, you cannot decide. A friendship is a process that requires a lot of efforts, a lot of actions, a lot of neshama, a lot of heart. Says the Pirkei Moshe and Maseches Ovis, I'll just try to translate it as much as I can. Therefore, it says a good friend to indicate that the best path that a person should cling to is to be a good friend to another. A good friend is really the penultimate virtuous path to life. It entails manifestation of many other attributes, such as good eye and a good heart. It's really not one trait that's called good friendship. A good friend is something that encompasses the entire person. I cannot really think about many people that really demonstrated the good friendships. And there's another interesting thing about friendship. You don't need to talk. The language of a good friend is the language of the heart. We didn't have to talk a lot to Eli, or as we know him, Barry. It was a conversation of the heart. The Gemara says about Eov friends. When Eov suffered, there was no communications at this time, and they all realized that the friend is suffering because the little plant in their backyard started to dry up. From this little plant drying up, they realized that Eov is in trouble. And they all came together, and they all came through one gate at the same time. And on this, the Gemara says, O chavre ke chavre de Eov, oy mesusa. The true friendship is a friendship that doesn't require a lot of talk. Barry did not require a lot of talk. Just a look, just the feeling. He really felt what you need. He really felt what you want. The second thing, it was mentioned here briefly. The Gemara says, in Pirkei Avos, in the Mishnah, one of the things that Shammai is saying is, Veheve mekabel es kol odom besever ponim yofes. The Rambam says that sever ponim yofes is berotzoin ubeneimus. willingness and presentness. Willingness and presentness. If you're pleasant to somebody, but it's not genuine, you can see it right through. And if you're willing to do something, but it's not with pleasantness, it's not going to happen. You need this combination of willingness and pleasantness. Facial expression. Whoever remembers Barry not smiling? I don't know, when I came to visit him, unfortunately, not too often, when he was hooked to a respirator. Always a smile. It's always like he's coming to visit me. And whenever I ask him, Barry, how are you doing? It was always with a smile. I'm fine, Baruch Hashem. What do you need? I don't need anything. And it was always the smile of Barry that was so genuine. והווה מקבל כל אדם בסבר פונים יפויס, ולבן שיניים מחלב, the smile, showing the white teeth while you smile is better than everything. Eye contact. Barry looked at you. And the look itself is the one that gave you everything that you needed to know about him. He didn't have to talk. It's just the look and the smile and the facial expression was so good and so genuine and so heartwarming. We'll miss it. We'll really miss it. I don't know that there are many people that I can really say with full heart what a genuine and a good person Barry was. I remember when I came to Chicago, I didn't know about the Weizsäcker Stiebel. It was in the basement. Nobody told me anything. And I went to daven in some other shuls. And then somebody said, you're a Chassidish person, why don't you go daven in Weizsäcker Stiebel? I said, what it is? Anyway, they gave me the address. And I remember walking in with my two little daughters to the Stiebel. It was a very warm place. There was a lot of Holocaust survivors there. But I'll never forget how Barry came and gave us a Shalom Aleichem and really started to talk to us and to my girls. And you felt you couldn't really be more welcomed than what he gave me. And it was a very different experience that I had in some other places beforehand. This is something that I will not forget. This was 40-some years ago. And this smile and this welcoming is something that is so important to every one of us. And Barry gave it with unlimited amount. Always, you always knew that when you see Barry, you'll see a smile, you'll see a good heart. You went too early, my good friend. Way too early. This was not just for Yitzchak Shkop. Barry was the same for everyone. Barry was really, with a smile, impacted so many lives and so many people without us even paying attention to it. It was just goodness, goodness every minute of every day. I have to ask Mechila from you, sometimes I may have not treated you as I should, but I know that without asking it, you are moichel. And I'm sure that you're coming to Beis Din Shel Malo with the same smile, with the same good heart. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is treating everybody mido keneged mido. I'm sure HaKadosh Baruch Hu will treat you with the same smile. And while he is treating you with the same smile, please be a melitzosher for your dear wife and for the children, for all of us and for Klal Yisrael. ובלעמו וסלנצח ומוחה השם דימה מעל כל פונים. וחר פס עמו יוסר מעל כל הארץ. We need it, כי השם דיבר.
Tati. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us that Rav, he spoke to Shmuel Bar Shilas, and he said to him, Achim behesped, when you're going to speak by my Levaya, you're going to speak by the Hesped. Achim behesped, speak and make sure everybody warms up and everybody's sad and everybody ends up coming to crying. Because I'm there by the Levaya, and this is what I want. Even though you just left us, Baruch Hashem, we have the opportunity now that you're here with us again, so that we can cry. I'm definitely planning on doing that, and hopefully everybody else will too. The Gemara Brachos also says, "Agra des Peda de Louis, the schar of a person who's being maspid, the reward is because he says it has been in such a way that it arouses everybody. They should cry." I have a lot to say, but my main focus is the emotions. I'm speaking not only on behalf of myself, I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, my sisters, uncles, other family members. On Simchas Torah this past Sunday, we started leaning over to Sefer Torah. We started over from Bereshis. We finished it and we started out again right away from the beginning. That's a person's life is really also like a Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah is not a history book, Chas v'Shalom, but the Maisa, the Torah does say history. It's part of the whole fabric of the Torah, all the Torah mitzvahs, it's a part of it. Tati, I want to go through your Sefer Torah. I want to start from Bereshis. It was mentioned how you were raised over here in Chicago by Bubby and Sadie. He came with the Weissner of. Sadie came straight from Poland after the Milchama, a Ger Chassid. Even though there was no Ger Chassidus over here really, but Avatikivus is still very Mekushet to Ger Chassidus as well. Every person has such a unique blend of all the different parts. A person is not one just component. There's many different components to the person. But Tati, the amount of components that went into your whole mouth, your whole essence, I find it fascinating. It was mentioned, some people knew my father by his Hebrew name. Some people knew him by his English name. And the two not necessarily knew that he had even another one. There was like a very interesting dynamic. And one of the things that showed was how everybody, he was part of everybody. He connected with everybody, and I'm not just one thing, and I'm me. And if you're different, I'm not talking to you, or you're not my type. The fact that my father was born in Chicago in the early days when there weren't a lot of the things that we take for granted. Yiddish and Meistis, the fact that kids weren't even in public school, all these things, it was a new thing when my father was growing up. It was already common, but it was just starting. My grandfather was a Polish that went through Milchama. My grandmother was an American. So many different things, and it all blended into my father. Everybody knows, there's such a Sach, that's the Friedrich Dar, that was the normal, even the public schools. Now, versteht Sach, anybody who would say, you're sending it to public school, it's the most craziest, ridiculous thing, but everybody understands that was the norm, it wasn't the Tainen. My father grew up in that generation. That American life, we're starting to go to yeshivas, there's no such thing as public school anymore, but American life, it's not a problem, what's the big deal? So even though Baruch Hashem, Achshir Dara, and that's also changed, but Lamaisa, that was part of him. And I think that was part of his uniqueness, how everybody was able to connect with him. Because, of course, some people will tell you certain things, how it's a contradiction, but if you grew up in that generation, these things were in contradiction. It just, that's what it was. There was once an American Yid who decided he wanted to go travel to go see the Chavetz Chaim in Radin. He had to take a train, to take a boat. He got to Europe, he had to go try to figure out, now what does he do? Trying to find Radin on the map, he couldn't find it, but he knew the general direction, so he took a train to that general direction. Maybe he'll get some answers over there. Got there also not, okay, let me try a little bit closer. It took a long time with a lot of hard work and many trains and many wagons. Eventually he made it to Radin. When he came to the Chavetz Chaim, he told him, there's such a hard thing to figure out how to get here. Radin is not even on the map. So Chavetz Chaim immediately told him, you should know you're looking at the wrong map. There's a map in Pamalia Shalmaila and Shemayim. And in the map in Shemayim, all the cities that you see on the regular maps are nothings. All the big cities on the map in Shemayim are the Mekomis HaTorah, where Yidden live, where the yeshivas are, where they're from Yidden that are doing Torah, keeping Torah mitzvahs, Shemer Torah mitzvahs. And the map in Shemayim, Radin is on the map, very big city. My father was born and bred in Chicago in the 50s, early 50s. My father was very into history, Jewish history, Chicago Jewish history. In my older years, I started appreciating it also. And Chicago had Yidden that were living here 200 years, and I don't know, 1790s, whatever it was. But unfortunately, all of them ended up going off the derech. Most of them went off the derech. Whatever they wanted from it, there was very schwache level of Yiddishkeit. By me, it's a davar pashut that if you look on the Chicago map from the 50s, all the attractions that you would see on the maps are the downtown, the skyscrapers, this, that. Aber in Shemayim, the map was the Weizen Stiebel, und Blaustein, yet I don't even know from them the history of all the different places. But it's a Pashut that those were the big places on the map. And Baruch Hashem, my father was zeichet to be in those kehilas, in part of that, not many were zeicha, and so that itself is a grace of bracha. So I wanted to speak about what Taka made them on the map. Why is it that way? Because real Torah mitzvahs doesn't need fanfare, doesn't need anything. It has to be done with the rein hearts, the rein kites, and the weizen thereof. For my grandfather, it was clear. They weren't looking for covet. They were looking for anything else. That's an elechas imelekecha. Was gewaldig. My grandfather, when he was nifter Erev Shabbos. We ended up doing the kfura still Erev Shabbos, so he didn't really even have any sort of levaya in Chicago, and many people were upset. And we ended up making during the Espedim, during the Shiva, there were Espedim. But I think that was right to my grandfather's best name, Elechas and Melikecha. I think my father got it from my grandfather. Because of course he would do it, like was mentioned, all the things that he did. And of course they're big things that he's not looking for, but if there's a reason to do it, so it's not a steer to my bets. Normally I'm not looking for these things, but if it's needed, okay. And it didn't stare the Batznei Alechas, because I'm even doing this big fanfare, but I'm not getting any fanfare out of it, because I don't care about it. So that's the real Batznei Alechas, it's the internal, that Hashem Yir L'Levov, only Hashem sees that. I wanted to be Ma'arich on the story that was mentioned during my grandfather's Shiva. So one of the Maspidim was Amalai Meisels, and my grandfather from the DP camps, and that's why my grandfather even came to Chicago. And he said, my grandfather looked like a batlin, but really he was a chacham mechukum. He said once the Weizen Rav called up my grandfather, and he said to him, I need a ride to a place. Is the store busy right now? So my grandfather said, no, Salaydik, there's nobody here. No big deal, I'm coming right now. Only afterwards they found out that the store was full of customers, and my grandfather said, I'm sorry, it's an emergency, I need everybody to leave right now, and he locked up the store. Because that's by him the real life. To tell them to yeah, but it's not, you don't make such cheshbonis. That doesn't sound like, that's what I care about. So I don't have to be worried about my business so much. I can focus on this. So although that's a Mishunah to get Madrega, but my father definitely got it from him. I remember my father used to work with my grandfather for many years. In my younger years, we used to always go on the van, in various different places where the storefront was. When I was learning in out-of-town yeshiva in Monsey, my Rosh Yeshiva wanted to come to Chicago to come collect. And, he asked my father if he can help out somewhat with helping him going to places and who to go to. In the end, my yeshiva needed a lot of help. I don't remember exactly what happened. My grandfather told my father, take the week off. He came for a week. Take the week off and take my yeshiva, go take him around, going collecting. That's what happened. And these were common things. But it wasn't fanfare by my father, it wasn't fanfare by my grandfather. That my father, like was mentioned, his chashivish for Tamid Chachamim, mikayach this, what happened over here. They spent a lot of time, obviously, over the week. But after that, my father, he came to New York. He called the Yeshiva, oh, can I come? I'm here now for Yom Tov. Can I come maybe one time to visit the Yeshiva? My Yeshiva always used to ask me about my father, how he's doing also because of it. It was a real Yedidus. probably one of the biggest milas, which also was mentioned. My father, Simchas HaChaim. I remember one of my uncles telling me years ago, he says he's marveled by the fact that my father doesn't really have much, and yet he has such a Simchas HaChaim that doesn't make sense for our generation. Everybody in that generation is the opposite. Everybody is so, depressed, anxious, whatever it may be. And by my father, it punkt verkehrt, mamish, he marveled. Recently, when we were, my father was in the hospitals and they did rehab a lot, did a lot of therapies. I remember one of the therapists, was saying to ask my father to do something, and it was, a little bit challenging. So my father would just smile at her, and she, I remember saying, "You have the best smile in the world." The person doesn't even know; she just saw him smile. It was a natural. And that wasn't just a physical smile; you felt it from the heart. The Torah tells us by the Gimel Regalim, by Pesach, the Torah doesn't mention the Lashon of Simcha. By Shavuos, it mentions it once, the Lashon of Simcha. And when it comes to Sukkot, the Torah says, "V'samachta b'chagecha v'yisa ach sameach." The pasuk says it in the beginning and at the end. It says twice. There's a chiyuv Simcha. This whole event happened to my father on Simchas Torah in the morning when he went to the hospital now. And I only found out about it Motzei Yom Tov. And I was thinking to myself, by me, it's a davar pashut, that with my father Simcha, I don't know if he was waiting, but definitely he wouldn't let something happen on Sukkot, in which there are Simcha, he wouldn't let that happen. And the Maaseh of the Torah says, "V'yisa ach sameach," and Chazal say, there's a mute. The mute now is what's going on right now. We're in this situation. So Chofetz Chaim, in one of his farm, says a mashal, how there was once a villager, a man that lived from a yid that lived in a village that didn't have a shul, they didn't even have a minyan, and he decided one day he wants to go to a big city to go see what a shul looks like. So he traveled and he came and he was there for Shabbos. And Friday night he went to the shul and everything was gewaldig. They were singing, they sent the bachazan who sang, and it was gewaldig. In the morning, he came back, and he sees they send him a Baal Tefillah, and it comes to Sheikhanad, he's walking away, and they send a new Baal Tefillah. He said, "What's going on? Why is the Gabbai doing this? He's embarrassing the Baal Tefillah. How can he do such a thing? Avlo." After that, comes the Kriyas HaTorah, and the first Aliyah, a young Bacher gets. Later, Shlishi, it's a younger man. Shishi, it's the Alter Choshev Yid. He says, it's backwards. It should have been the Alter Choshev Yid should be first, then the younger man, and then the Bacher. So after davening, he couldn't hold himself back. He went over to the Gabbai, and he said to the Gabbai, "What are you doing? You're mixing everything up. You have such a weird, the way you're acting is so weird." So the Gabbai told him, you think you can come and immediately you understand everything that's going on? I've been doing this for years and years, and everything that I'm doing, there's a cheshbon for it. And you think you can just come and automatically you should understand? It's not like that. So the Chofetz Chaim tells us the nimshal is that the Gabbai is the Rebbeinu Shalom, and we are that person, the man, and we always have all our shilas. Hashem, why do you do this? Hashem, why do you do that? And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I'm running the world for many, many years, thousands of years. And everything has a clear plan. and you don't have to worry about it. I was thinking that you were also a gabbai for many, many years, so you do understand this whole malacha, how the gabbayis worked. And I was thinking that maybe that was another reason why you left us. It was a betzne aleches, but it's because you couldn't take this offering that started now with what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. And this would takishter your simchas achayim, that everybody else's simchas achayim is now so gestert. So please, go up to Gizeh Shemai, up to Gizeh Kovet. Betzachayis by Rebbeinu Shalom and tell him, Rebbeinu Shalom, ich bin ja Gabbai. I do understand. And ich sag dir, ich bete, please, bring schon Mashiach. Let Mashiach sein, the Baal Tefillah. Instead of singing Lechadoidi, the Mashiach should be the Baal Tefillah singing Yerushalayim, and that we're here, Taka, not that we're being mitzapeh. And you can also tell Rebbeinu Shalom that Rebbeinu Shalom, many of our Gdolim, including the Chavetz Chaim, had a suitcase ready with a change of clothing. They were ready to go whenever Mashiach would come. I didn't know what it was going to be for the last few days. I came from Lakewood with one suitcase, and I have some change of clothing. And everywhere I go, I take it in the house, into the car, into that house, into the hospital. You can tell everybody, look at my son. He has a suitcase. He's ready with a change of clothing. When it's not them, you can tell everybody, look, everybody, so many of the Yidden are already here. They're stuck from Chutz La'aretz, from Yom Tov. So you already have a shtickle kibbutz galiyas. Finished it up. I wanted to thank over the last couple of months, and it was also mentioned, there's been the last couple of years, there's been some medical history. I wanted to thank all the people, all the chesed organizations that have helped out. It's lo yu'min ki yisupa, the chesed in Klal Yisrael. So I wanted to thank on behalf of the entire family. Also like to thank all the hospitals and doctors and everybody that also took such gewaltige care of our father. Please be amazed, Yesha, for us all, for Mommy, for Malki, for Esti, for our husbands, our children, for our spouses, for the extended family. Your hearts are so big that it's for God's Klal Yisrael. Not even a stira b'chlal for you to have everybody, to have it for everybody to be amazed, Yesha, for us all. I also want to ask you, Mechilata, on behalf of the whole family, to be Michaelos for not just from this Tkufa, if there's anything that we didn't do, but even previously. With the Eibish's L'halfin U'mocha Hashem Alikim Dimo Mel Kalpanim V'nai Maramein.
Molly. El Molly Rachamim, Sheichein Bam Roimim. Hamtzei menuchon lechoino, Bitzel kalfei hashchino, Lemalois kedoshim utoirim kizayar harakia. Mazahirin es nishmas. Rabbi Yehudoiv ben Rabbi Yitzchak Meir. Sheholach li oilamoi. Ba'avur. Shemishpachto inodel litzedok about the scores nishmasoi. Began Eden. Tehei menuchasoi. Lochein bal lo rachamim. Yaskirei b'seisuk nafav li oilamim. B'yitzroyer b'tzroyer hachayim es nishmasoi. Adonai hu nachlosoi. V'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavoi v'noimar amen.
This concludes the Levaya here. The Levaya in Lakewood will be tonight at 9:45 at the Lakewood Chapel, 28 Empire Lane in Lakewood. Then, 613 Ramsey Avenue in Lakewood. And then the crew will be in Lakewood this evening. The family is coming back to sit Shiva here Monday, and all the Shiva times will be updated on our website Sunday afternoon once we have the times for the family to come back. For those who will be going to the airport, we'll be lining up in a parking lot. We'll be going in procession to the airport. The family will not be going to the airport. They'll be going home and then later on going to the airport. Please remain standing as we take the urn out of the chapel.